And there came a day unlike... Wait, no, that's been done. Who knows what evil lurks in... No, that is that other thing. What has yellow skin and rights? Ah, forget it. You're listening to Panelology. Excelsi, oh damn it.
Welcome to episode 227 of Panelology. I'm Alex.
And I am Brian.
How's it going this week, Brian?
It's been a hectic week, but that's all right.
Yeah?
Hectic isn't always bad. It's just
It's just busy.
it is. I've got a basically a 9-month project that is, for the most part, the big part of it's wrapping up this next Friday. So it's been all focus on that.
Oh yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Things were pretty quiet here for me this week. I did get to finally take a crack at the new hobby I have picked for myself.
You showed me that, yes.
I did. I sent you some pictures of this first one I've done. I took one of the original Game Boy Advances. I ordered a couple of beaten up models off of eBay, and I bought a new shell for one, and a new backlit screen for one, and a rechargeable battery. And cracked the old one open, took out the motherboard, put in the screen, soldered in a couple of wires so that I can control the brightness on the screen. Dropped it back in, threw in a new battery, and this thing is gorgeous.
It looks beautiful. Sir.
Yeah, it's a clear black shell. It's a little more opaque than some of those original shells were that were translucent, but it looks cool. You can see the little circuit board for the rechargeable battery controller through the case. That's a nice look. But yeah, and then I realized none of my Game Boy Advance games are here. They're all in a box from when I moved. That before I moved, at this point a little over 2 years ago, I threw all of them in a box and stuck them at my parents' because I didn't want to have to move more than I was going to have to, and house hunting was a pain, and I wound up taking longer than I'd hoped and was off contract for my apartment and wanted to be able to just move fast.
And when were you going to play your Game Boy games? I mean, come on.
Well, a little bit that. They were lower in the priority list of stuff to move back, and I haven't been up to Dalton, I think, but once for my father's, what year is it? 65th birthday.
Yeah.
I went up once in June. That's the only time I've been up there. I think I've been up there twice this year total. I went up once in March and once in June.
All right.
So I may make a secret trip in the dead of night this week just to break into my parents' house, steal my things back, and not have to expose anyone to any... I mean, I've been quarantining, so I'm not going to expose anyone to anything. But anyway, I'm excited.
All right.
Let's talk comics.
Let's do that.
I'm going to open us up with We Only Find Them When They're Dead, #1.
Yeah.
Which you just picked up and started reading while waiting to start.
I did, and I guess I'm only about 4 or 5 pages in, but I like it so far.
Yeah, this is the new Al Ewing book. Simone DeMeo is the artist, and the colorist, whose work here is just incredible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
With color assist by Maria Sara Miotti.
Okay.
So...
yeah, I will. I mean, just from the parts that I've seen, the colors are probably easily half the art in this.
Yeah.
Because, they're just so much in this.
So much of the, visual language of this book is in lighting and glow and reflection and these illuminated floating screens throughout ships, like holograms. It's ethereal and gorgeous. So this is about
yeah,
a 4-person group of kind of pirate-esque strip miners. And the thing they are strip mining is the corpse of a god that is floating through space, because the different parts of its body and armor and eye jellies and things like that are resources for civilization.
Super valuable. Yeah.
Yes, it is heavily regulated. You are only allowed to harvest so much. Different ships claim stakes in different parts of the god. And, like, if you try to get away without confirming your cargo and paying taxes on it, or if you try to claim jump on someone else, you have to deal with the authorities. And there are corporations that have started up that are trying to leverage legal power to push out the smaller independent ships. And like through this whole first issue,
I mean, got to get that Google God in there, right?
Yeah. Through this whole first issue, which is prefaced by its captain as a kid, and we see that basically, like, this is the family business.
Yep.
We see the team, like, very intentionally not talking about certain things until they make this hyperspace jump where they can't be monitored. And then we find out what's going to be happening going forward.
Definitely that's the part I haven't gotten to yet.
You haven't gotten there yet.
No. I gotta say what shocked, because I read the solicitation for this. It sounded interesting. What shocked me was when I turned the page to, so that, like, they all go to this place in space, and then at given times, kind of like the next body will appear.
Yeah.
And so you turn the page, and it's this beautiful 2-page spread of this goddess body.
Yeah.
And I was not expecting, like, how beautiful these god creatures are. Like, I was thinking more like old style Kirby, you know, Celestia, something like
that sort of like industrial armor with lots of
right
Art Deco kind of vibes.
Yeah, but no, like this dead goddess is beautiful.
I mean, she looks like what they would worship in Amethyst in Gem World, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
She is radiant in every sense of the word.
Yes. Yeah. And then they proceed to cut her up.
Yeah, like, which I kind of dig that, right? Like, we see this absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, not talking about just like her as a femme presenting entity, but like this absolutely beautifully rendered body just in space. Like you can almost sort of hear the aria playing behind it, right?
Well, I'll tell you what it took me half a step, and then it made me think, like, when they start carving her up, is, I wonder if this was done purposely as a metaphor for, like, our beautiful world and how we carve it up and pull shit out of it.
Yeah, I think so, because that's where I was on my way to, right? Like, we see this beautiful image, and then it's just, okay, this is meat. This is resources. This is a consumable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also want to mention in here the lettering real quick, because it plays with form a lot. And this is lettered by AndWorld Designs. We have the, traditional speech bubbles, but we also have what feels like it would normally be in a text box.
An editor type box, yeah.
Yeah. But we see in, like, a serifed font, in white over space, this just kind of narration. So, like, the double page spread Brian mentioned, it's just the gods are always beautiful and the gods are always dead.
Yep.
Which also sounds like it could be a line out of Wikdiv.
Yeah. Yes, it does.
It's a very stylish, intentional book, and underneath that, like, I think the story and the character work here is also super well executed.
Yeah.
We spent all that time on art and lettering and have barely talked about writing. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. We're gonna ignore the writer for once.
I love it, but I mean, here's the thing: I haven't gotten far enough into it to comment on the writing for me personally, but yeah, I'm digging this. I'll definitely finish it and pick this up.
Yeah, you may have to settle for like a third printing at this
I
point.
know. Oh yeah, I know. I'm aware.
All right. Batman number 98.
Oh man. So yeah, we're just rolling through this Joker war, aren't we?
We are. It feels like it's only barely started, and also, I guess because it's been setting up basically for as long as Tynan's been writing the book, it also feels like it is time for something big to happen.
Yeah. So this one in particular, the two big things we get is we get the rematch between Harley and Punchline.
Yeah, which I love Harley in this book so much.
God, how much better of a character is she nowadays than she was 10 years ago?
I mean, she's had way more room to exist outside of the context of Joker, so
that's kind of
absolutely,
my point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's, in fact, I'm gonna tangent for a quick second.
All right.
I've finally gotten around to watching the Harley Quinn cartoon.
Oh my God, yes.
I'm not done yet. I've got 4, maybe 3 episodes left.
Yeah.
But as someone who has always like looked at the costume redesigns and been like, these are cool, but God, that original costume is so iconic. That show makes the best case for ditching that costume of anything that I've ever seen.
Not to mention the other character, like everything about that show is amazing in my opinion.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
Alan Tudyk as Clayface is everything.
Yes. King Shark though may be my favorite though.
I mean, Ron Funches has been in like 3 different things I've watched in the last 2 weeks, and he steals everything he's in.
Yeah, he's amazing. But that's the thing. I love because I love Poison Ivy in that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, just the little bit of trivia that Batgirl is voiced by Kaylee Cuoco's sister.
Yeah.
I love that choice too. Everything about this show. Yes. All right, back to book at hand. Harley, great.
Yeah, and then the other thing is, kind of Batman's recovery.
Yeah.
Which is probably some of the most important character work we're going to see with him in, I think, a while.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder. I could see it going 2 ways, right? Is this the payoff to what Tynan has been doing so far, or is this the first step in what will be an ongoing process?
And I think it's almost crucial that you read this along with it like to know what's going on with Batman along with Justice League right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we'll talk briefly. I think maybe I will pull Justice League back in just to mention something specific about that. You know what? I'm going to talk about it right because we're going to still good Justice League. But in that one, I told you that they're in Black Mercy, right? This world-sized Black Mercy. Well, what it shows, essentially, it's what it's showing Batman, which is, it's essentially his mother wanting him to, much like when his father came from Flashpoint, wanting him to be Bruce and not Batman.
Yeah.
Right? And it really, really makes me return to kind of our thought process from a couple of years ago of, is Bruce Wayne going to give up Batman?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that too, because it hasn't been solicited yet. I think they've said it'll be January or February. But there is a John Ridley Batman miniseries coming up that he has said, he sort of teasingly said that there would be a black Batman in this book. There are preview pages out there for another issue of this Batman run that have people speculating that maybe that book, which was assumed to be not in continuity, might in fact be in continuity.
So let's play a little guessing game here. let's say that Batman does give up the cowl, and this is going to be in continuity. Who do you think it is?
Luke Fox.
That's my guess, 100% as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Luke is primed to be in that position. He had a New 52 launch title.
Mm-hmm.
He's been in a lot of the Batman line books relatively consistently over the last decade. He's a character on Batwoman.
Yeah, he just came back into Batgirl.
Yeah.
Last issue. Yeah.
And with Tynan writing Batman and Tynan having been so heavily involved in, I forget if it was Batman Eternal or Batman and Robin Eternal that Luke played a role in.
Got it.
It would not surprise me to have Luke be a big part of what's coming up next.
Yeah.
So, and I'm all for it. Like, even if it becomes kind of a Marvel legacy thing where there are multiple Batmen out there. I don't know what shape it's gonna take, but I'm cool for continuing to shake things up.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I think everyone knows that eventually Bruce will be Batman again if that happens. But, you know, yeah, it could be interesting for a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's
some differences.
It's the comics as a conservative medium argument. The everything eventually has to go back to status quo.
Yep.
Because that's where new readers can come on.
Mm-hmm.
By the flip side, like, this is why movies and comics sharing is a good thing in my book, because it helps change that status quo and means maybe you don't have to go so far back every time.
Right.
Like,
I mean, I think our loss of Alfred is going to be a real permanent thing now. Yeah.
I feel like it has to be. Like, if not, that kind of thing, if you do that, that's just shock at that point.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Anything else on Batman while we are here?
No, other than, I mean, I guess I'll just say this puts us at a point in the story where we are ready to start the final part of the story. Yeah.
I also think this issue confirms for me that this Joker War line is really more a punchline story than a Joker story. At least in its moving parts.
I kind of am getting that. It's from the standpoint of Joker, it's just another Joker story.
Yeah.
More than some of the other characters that are involved in the story. That makes sense, right? Like, I think Selina, I think it's bigger for her than it is for Joker.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, like, she feels really sidelined right now.
Yes.
But I think that's going to give her a chance to react to having been sidelined and having to react to feeling like she's messed up. And I can see this springboarding into something much bigger from her.
Yeah.
And our next issue of Catwoman, which is number 25, in a couple of weeks, does tie into this and is a new creative team coming in. Rom V. I'm very excited.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm really curious to see what this does for her going forward.
Me too.
All right, DCeased, Dead Planet number 3. Normally this is where we start throwing this into is it still good, but some things happen here and we learn about what's going on and stakes, and there's too much, I think, in this issue not to talk about.
Yeah, plus it's got my editorial box of the week.
Brian's editorial box of the week.
So we talked about how in the last one they got attacked by Undead Plastic Man.
Yep.
Well, so it turns out Undead Plastic Man is like the moat around this then wall of hellfire, which then guards this other sanctum, right?
Yeah.
This other protected space. So the way they defeat Plastic Man is Zatanna forces him into the hellfire, and the editorial comment, which is from Constantine, is, "I hate the smell of burning flesh and the smell of burning plastic. A combination of the two is definitely worse." Ugh.
Yeah. Thanks for that, John.
Ugh.
So we learn who is in this Australian fortress, and I love this beat so much.
Yeah.
Because, like, the idea of, oh yeah, here are all the billionaires fortifying in, like, Australia and IRL New Zealand.
New Zealand, right, yeah.
Like, I love Tom Taylor, who is Australian, right? Like, taking this and being like, we see you. We know what the fuck you're doing, assholes.
Yes. Which, here's, you know what, who I loved in this, though?
Swamp Thing?
No, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, but Penguin.
Penguin was good here.
Yeah, Penguin looks good in this, and yeah.
See, I went to Swamp Thing because my brain is on, Wonder Woman's gonna high five him when he gets back from this, and she gets de-zombified.
Oh, hell yeah.
Now that implies Kite Man is somewhere in here. Kite Man is not in here to our knowledge.
Kite Man is not to our knowledge, no. The other is I like Damien sewing his costume.
That was good. Like Damien and Jim
yeah,
are fantastic in this issue.
You're just stoicism and a mustache, aren't you?
Damien talking about the Riddler could have scared Batman away with just a little affirmation or whatever is
yes.
Just the best.
I never realized that Bruce's greatest fear was intimacy. Yes. Oh, with a pat on the shoulder. That was it.
That's it.
Oh my god. Amazing.
Damien spills all the tea.
Yeah. All right, so the I'm kind of flipping through here. The next thing, are we going to end up seeing something between John Kent and Mary Marvel?
I mean, I hear magic is Superman's biggest weakness.
Yep. And then, of course, one of Alex's all-time favorite characters shows up. Jason Blood's alternate ego.
I was going to say, in this book, you're going to have to be more specific.
The Demon Etrigan.
Can we just not with the rhyming? I'm not in the mood right now.
Can we just not, please?
So I start slipping in, like, internal rhyme in single sentences, and John's just like, no, fuck off.
Yep, it's beautiful.
I love it.
And who does, so, we find out that because all of these people are dying, but aren't actually dying, they're undying, that, like, hell is pissed because it's not getting these people's souls.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, right, Brian. Right? Who's coming for everybody? I figured you'd be very excited by this.
I was like just smiling ear to ear because Trigon is coming to fuck the world over. Yes, he's gonna pretty much just wipe out everybody.
Yep, but there's good news. If there's an anti-life equation, there must be a life equation. So who does Constantine enlist to help find it?
Oh, right. Let's see. Knowing that the anti-life equation came from Apocalypse, right?
Yep.
Who could, and you find yourself being closed in on all sides by these undead hordes, who do you think could escape the situation and find an answer?
I'm going to go with Scott Free.
There you go.
Yeah. But I've also read the book, so.
Yeah, that's fair. By the way, how much did you love the
Scott Free on Harley Quinn?
No.
Because a lot, in fact.
But the comment, well, we know this is apocalyptic in origin, so maybe the answer lies with the knowledge of Apocalypse. And somebody, I don't remember who it was, somebody says, we could ask a mother box. And John goes, I'm pretty sure their answer would be ping, ping, ping.
John's not wrong.
That was just amazing. I love it. This book is so damn good. Oh.
All right, Brian, why don't you tell me about Die number 13?
Oh my gosh. So I got all caught up on Die, and holy crap, I really, every time I go back into this book, I realize just how much I love it and how much Kieran Gillen is a fucking master at setting up these super complex, interrelated, but like so different constructed universes type things. Like this is like the ultimate thing for him. It's just amazing. We have, now that the party is split, it's important to know that Ash essentially took control of an entire kingdom, so one whole side of the die, by forcing a king to marry her. And so now she is the ruler of Angria, which is yeah. But oh my god, didn't realize the repercussions that were going to happen from it, and how complicated so we found out there's these other people called the Masters, and there's one for each side of the die, who generally don't actually play in the game themselves, but just set up the rules and constructs for how that side of the die functions.
So they're the GMs.
They're not the GMs because there is a specific role that is the Game Master of the world, right? But they are. It's like they're like the writers of the modules, or
Gotcha.
like the writers of maybe a class, or so they're like creators of the content. So
cool.
Kind of, right? And you find out maybe that's even more true in this one, because turns out the one that's giving her trouble, because like out of nowhere, one of the sides like declares war on her kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, what's going on? You've always been friends, and we have this other enemy in common that we need to do. And they're like, no. As long as you are queen, it is impossible for us to make peace with you. And she's like, wait, impossible? And they're like, yeah. And so she's like, oh, and realizes that it's the person, the game master of that die, who has literally made one of the rules that if she's queen, it's impossible for them to make peace with her.
Ah.
So she goes to meet with this game master, who is one who actually does play in the game. And it turns out to be H.G. Wells.
Amazing.
This is so good in so many levels. I would never suggest, and this is not, we don't do this often. I would never suggest somebody read this issue to issue, just because there is so much to keep track of.
Yeah.
If this is one that will be enjoyed far, far better in trades, just so you can consume enough of it to really get into it.
Yeah.
Right. Like I said, because it is so complex and there's so many moving parts to it. But oh my God, it is so damn good.
So Kieran Gillen tweeted earlier today, thinking a format for a die RPG commercial release and doing separate players and masters books, where the player's book is blank except the legend, you know nothing, in enormous letters.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Because the whole thing about this is them figuring out what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
And holy crap, do we get a lot of what it actually is in this one. And it's so much more complicated than we thought. Like, it's this big closed loop system that they can't let close.
Suddenly I'm thinking of the laws of thermodynamics.
Oh my God.
Or at least the mnemonic for it, like, you must play the game. You can't quit the game. You will lose the game.
Yeah. So the only way to win is to break the game, right?
Oh, no, you can't win.
Thermodynamics.
Thermodynamics.
Yeah, right. No, I get it. Yes. No, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh, super good. Die is amazing.
Also fantastic this week. I was excited for this book. I did not know where this book was going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Black Widow #1.
Oh yeah. So this has like some of the best vibes of several different books that I've read recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it starts off with her on a mission, right? And the interaction between her and Kat, by the way, is amazing at the end of that little intro mission. She goes home and finds somebody, we don't know who, in her apartment. And they shoot her with tranquilizers, and the next thing we know, it's 3 months later.
Yep, and she is working with a construction crew and in a relationship with someone happily, and nobody has seen her since. They've just assumed she disappeared on a mission.
Right.
But then Hawkeye, who was pissed with her at the beginning of the book for not inviting him along on her adventures with Bucky.
Yes.
Sees her on TV and calls Bucky and is like, look, we thought she was undercover. If that were true, she never would have let herself be caught on camera.
Right.
Something is up.
And
so I guess we're doing this again.
Right, but then there's very definitely, and the big vibe that came in the next part of this was from Hex Wives, which I don't know if you remember, which was essentially that the way they controlled this coven of witches was to put them into this fake life, right? The kind of Stepford wife.
Yeah.
And she's obviously not this is not nearly Stepford-esque as that. But the point is that she apparently is in this life and doesn't know who she, or at least we don't think she knows who she is.
It definitely reads like someone said, okay, we're going to like pull out some memories.
Yeah.
But otherwise just let her live a functional life.
Yeah.
And make choices without all the weight of her past on her.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how we take her off the board.
Right.
We let her want to be off the board.
And if you had to put somebody in an environment where, because you were taking them off the board and they had to be watched constantly in this kind of created situation, who would you hire to do that, Alex?
I mean, definitely not Maria Hill because of that whole
Pleasant
Valley, Pleasant Hill,
whatever it was, thing. Pleasant something that fucked
that
up
time
so
Maria Hill turned Cap into a Nazi unintentionally.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, pretty much.
I'm gonna jump to, again, I've read the book and know the answer.
I know,
I don't think I would have gotten here on my own.
Actually, I might have. I really might have.
Well, especially taking the segue from who would be a game master.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Arcade.
Who I think my favorite part of this is the fact that it's like he's like, it's day 47, and holy shit, is this boring? He's so bored just watching her live her life.
Yeah.
I love it.
Arcade gives off some Riddler vibes in this book, and I'm kind of here for that.
Yeah, very definitely. And here's the thing. I already know I'm going to absolutely love this book because it's Kelly Thompson, and I love reading Kelly Thompson.
Yeah.
Specifically, Kelly Thompson writing female characters is just, I don't know.
Also, Elena Casagrande's art is perfect for this.
Yes. And Jordi Belair's doing coloring. Come on.
Yeah.
You know how we feel about Jordi.
Just one of the best.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. I want more. I'm ready now.
Me too. Hey, that cover to number 3 suddenly makes a whole lot more sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It's gonna be heartbreaking.
Ugh.
Guardians of the Galaxy number 6. Speaking of heartbreaking, I could not tell if the first page of this was meant to be an homage to the Abnett and Lanning Guardians, or to Heroes in Crisis, or both. But this starts with Richard Rider in a 9-panel grid with, the background is very, I think it's got to be both, because the background is very Heroes in Crisis. Talking to his therapist, which also reminds me of the video testimonials in that Abnett and Lanning run.
Yeah, sure.
This entire issue, though, is Rider in therapy after dealing with the, having been dead and having come back and having gotten his best friend killed and having his best friend's girlfriend mad at him for it. And by the way, he used to be in love with her, and he found out that at one point she said she was in love with him, and they talked about it, and she was more in love with the idea of him and how pure and simple he was. But the difference between him and Peter is Peter came back, and he never really came back and isn't capable of moving on in the way that she needed. And the whole issue is kind of finishing up the first arc and telling us where everything shakes out by virtue of just how it has affected Richard Rider, who has been in some books over the last couple of years, especially, but hasn't really had a chance to unpack anything.
Yeah.
It's a really solid issue. We also learn that now Marvel Boy and Hercules are a couple.
Okay.
Which I'm super excited for that going forward in this book, because I think that will be a fun dynamic for this book to explore. And then at the very end of this, Rocket calls Richard, is like, yeah, hey, have you seen the space news? And writer's like, no. Pulls it up and basically, I guess, reads the headline that, hey, Empyre just happened. And now all of the politics of space are completely different.
Oh, right, because the Kree-Skrull War is over, right?
Yeah. And can you believe what happened with the Kotati? Yeah, I love this book a lot. I mean, we joked about not talking about Al Ewing's writing, and we only find them when they're dead, but this is also Al Ewing, and he is one of my favorite writers right now. Cannot recommend this enough. Especially if, like me, you're kind of done with Peter Quill. It's a good Guardians book if you don't want a Guardians book with Peter Quill in it.
Okay.
Yeah. Just kind of tired of him being an asshole and holding everyone back, and this is a book without him in it. And I'm not saying everything's great for everyone, but people get to be different and not held back by his childish bullshit.
Go ahead. I'll let it go for now. I was going to say another example of how Kate Pride is better off on her own than the men that she seems to choose.
than the men named Peter that she seems to choose.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Who'd have thought that Emma Frost would be better for her?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Speaking of Empyre.
Yes.
The penultimate entry in our Empyre Round-Up series.
Yeah. Oh, and I don't know if I put this on my list, but also Fantastic Four 23. Did you happen to read that one?
I did.
Yeah.
Cool. We're actually going to start with that one as it comes before/during 6, but I would absolutely read Fantastic Four before Empyre.
Yes, 100% agreed. This is one of the critical, you should read them in that order.
Yes. Yeah. And the reason for that is this does the thing, and we can talk about this in a minute, but this does the thing where, like, Fantastic Four 23 is telling a very specific, like, plot line that's running in parallel to Empyre, and we get, like, 2 pages of Fantastic Four number 23 retold with, you know, with different art in Empyre.
But almost the exact same dialogue. Like, I think the dialogue is pretty much dead on pulls from. Yeah.
Like, it's the exact same dialogue, but we just see, like, slightly truncated versions of those scenes.
Yep.
If you read Empyre 6 first, like, you know where Fantastic Four 23 goes.
Yes.
I
mean, to be fair, if you read comics, you can probably guess where it goes before they do anyway, because it's,
Yeah. So Fantastic Four number 23 is the end of the immediate plot line, at least, with these 2 Kree and Skrull kids who have the entire histories of their people's conflicts ingrained in them. I love these 2 kids so much.
I do too.
They are great, and I'm glad that they've shown up on covers to subsequent issues of Fantastic Four, because I'm really interested in seeing, like, what Dan Slott does with them. They're a very Dan Slott pair of characters. Like, they clearly, we learn in this, like, they kind of can't imagine life without each other.
Yeah.
And it's because they're basically raised to hate each other, and therefore their purpose comes from each other, but now that hatred doesn't really make sense.
Well, and not only were they raised to hate, but, like, literally they have spent their entire lives fighting each other.
Right.
So, like, they are the most important person in the other person's life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I do have to point this out, though.
Yeah.
Like, because literally every time he speaks or every time I see it, is Joven not Damien the Kree?
Oh, 100%.
Okay, I'm just checking this, make sure it's not just me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, 100% he is Space Damien.
Yes. Yes, he is.
And I mean that in the best way possible.
Right, yeah.
I adore Damian Wayne. But yeah, this is basically the rescue mission to get Joven back. The priests of Palma have built basically a hate ray using Joven to exacerbate the tensions between the Kree and the Skrull and break up the army. And Valeria and Franklin along with Spidey and Wolvie, have to rescue him, stop this, reverse the damage, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they do.
They do.
Spoilers, they do.
Shocking.
Right.
It's
like telling you that Rocky wins at the end of a Rocky movie. I don't know.
Like, now, hang on. This could have ended with a freeze frame photo finish.
Okay, right. Yeah, fair enough. But no. Actually, maybe this issue could. Empire 6 could not, because it had to finish out the.
Yes. So let's talk about Empire 6.
Yeah.
And the thing I will lead with, and I don't think this is a bad thing at all. It's in a way refreshing, and I think probably maybe a little bit product of just the hiatus and trying to get everything back on track.
Yeah.
Empire doesn't, except for a couple of specific characters, doesn't immediately seem like it changes a whole lot of what's happening in continuity right now.
I would agree with that.
And that's kind of refreshing in a way.
It is. I think the two biggest things we're going to see that actually do have some sort of impact, well, I guess three. One is the introduction of these two characters to the Fantastic Four.
Yep.
Right? Joval and Kala. And then the other is Captain Marvel, right?
Yeah.
The fact that she has the Hammer of the Accuser.
Well, and this is, I think, one of the unfortunate effects of the release timing on this.
Right.
There's one issue of that book that comes before this that isn't out yet.
Correct. Yeah.
So we won't see exactly how that shakes out, although you and I have our prediction and we're on the same page with that.
Yeah.
I think you're right about those things. Obviously this is going to have some effect on Jennifer Walters.
Yep. And then I was going to say that, and then there's the fact that the Kree-Skrull War is indeed over now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's this sort of solidifies that, I guess.
Right, yeah.
I think we'll probably see a little bit more in terms of consequence next week in the Avengers and Fantastic Four Aftermath and Fallout issues.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I can see definitely some room kind of like we talked about last week on Iron Man, where like we sort of wish we had an epilogue.
Right.
I can see some room in an epilogue for, as people decompress things, to be a little different. I mean, we see with Ben and Sue, we see both of them go to some pretty extreme places, right? Like Ben is bloodied at the end of this, which is not something that happens to him a whole lot.
Right.
Sue has to have Mantis like remove her sense of pain in order to be able to push herself to a certain point. So like I think there's room in the Fallout there. I think there's room for Avengers, especially with some of what's going on in Avengers, for maybe Tony to have some character change, character growth out of this maybe.
This is probably my favorite Tony that's been in an event in a long, long time.
I agree.
And here's the thing. He's not Iron Man in this.
No, he's really not.
At all. He's Tony.
Well, and
like the whole time.
Sort of knowing what's in the solicitation text for the first issue of the new Iron Man run, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And we've certainly seen in Avengers, which is, I mean, both of those books are different writers, so it's a little hard to tell how much this bleeds into that directly. But in Avengers, we've seen Tony be pretty shaken to his core in terms of who is he, why is he here,
right?
What is Mephisto really his father? Like, there's a lot existentially on Tony at this point.
Well, and there's a scene in here where he's talking to Reed, right? Where he essentially says, "Oh, I'm essentially in a cave. You know, it's a technological, metaphorical cave, but I'm in this cave. I've got, scraps of technology that I could put to use all around me, and I've got a time limit on a situation that's going to destroy everything. this is the only place where I really am Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, hey, way to get back to your roots there, bud.
Yeah. How am I gonna fix the sun? I'm gonna put a suit on it.
Did you get what roots?
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay. There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, this was a in some ways predictable conclusion, but satisfying. Very satisfying.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to have event level books that don't have everything changes forever consequences.
Right. I agree.
And especially when really, like, this was always billed as, this is a Fantastic Four and Avengers event.
Yeah. And what I would consider our two big villains in this are very much in a captured but still around to come back in the future state.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, on Krakoa, how much did you love Cable this week, Brian?
As much as I love Cable every single week that it comes out, because
I legitimately get the vibe that this is one of your favorite books at this point.
Here's the thing. I don't want to like it as much as I do. I really don't. But I can't help it. Somehow Duggan writing Cable is like the best thing that has ever happened to me that I did not expect.
Brian, how would you, if I had in December of 2019 said, hey, look, 2020 is going to be a weird year.
Yeah.
But the weirdest part is going to be that two of your favorite books are Suicide Squad and Cable. What would you have even been able to, like, take that with a straight face?
I probably would have had to respond to something like, man, there's going to have to be like some sort of world-altering disease that comes out to make that kind of thing happen. But yeah, and here's the thing: it is 100% in the dialogue that Cable has, and even more so the context things that go on around him.
Mm-hmm.
Like things like when it introduces Esme, it's like 1/5 of Cable's girlfriends.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Come on.
Well, and like there's so much in the art too that is expression and is, like you said, context. The shot, there's a shot near the end where Emma Frost has come to pick up Esme. And
because they're a day late getting back.
There's this great line where Frost is like, now, neither of you needs your powers to know what I'm thinking right now. But then she and Esme ride off on a horse because in this book, of course. And there's just this, like, glance back and forth in this psychic call me later or whatever.
Yeah.
That is just the most... You two think you're cute because you're being sneaky and psychic. You know Emma heard that, right?
Oh, of course she did. And Emma does this glare at Cable and does the pointed at the eyes and him like, I'm watching you. Like she's first she could say the words. Second, she's a telepath. She could just think the things. But no, she actually uses the pantomiming of I'm watching you.
Yeah.
Got my eyes on you. Oh my god.
And it's perfect because, like, she's just like, you don't need your powers to know what I'm thinking. But
Exactly.
Let me make this very clear without your fucking powers. Duggan and Noto Cable, like, why, how, no Cable book should ever be this good.
It should not. It is not right for it to be, but it is. And then he talks about how he met Deadpool for the first time. And wow, that guy's something, isn't he?
And Scott's kind of like, I don't think you should be talking to him.
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't hang around him.
We also get the and I guess technically it's a retcon, but it's so smooth that I hate to use that word. the explanation of why OG Cable,
right?
I guess in this case means old Grandpa Cable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure.
Let Kid Cable get the drop on him, and this great like flashback moment of, fuck you, kid. I'm gonna have to fall on this sword because you need a bomb, which means I needed a bomb, which means to get here to this point, I've got to put a bomb in my arm.
Yeah, and accept you killing me. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because you get this thing of like the young Cable realizing, because he why didn't he fight back, or why didn't he avoid me, knowing that this was going to happen? And he comes to a point of realize, oh wait, he did know this was going to happen.
Well, and it's like this really great commentary on when you are younger.
Yeah.
Even trying to imagine a future version of yourself is like thinking about a different person in a different person's life.
Yes.
And when you're older and you're looking back on it, like, that was you, that sort of disconnect.
Yep.
That you have when you're young from your own future.
Yeah.
Like, we had the last issue, Deadpool is like, I can see shades of my friend in you, but you're not him yet.
Yeah.
And in this issue, we see Old Man Cable recognizing, yes, this is all part of my story. I have to own this and sort of pay the piper for my actions in the past. Maybe not in those exact words, but like that's sort of the net effect of it. But you still have Kid Cable being like, damn it, Old Man got the drop on me. He could have had this.
Yeah.
Like there's still that gulf there, and like the book doesn't push that in your face, but I think it's such an important part of this. And such a well executed part of this.
I mean, you just pointed it out to me. 9 months ago, I couldn't have predicted I would like this book this much.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean,
and time makes fools of us all.
Doesn't it, though? Oh, my God, so good. And here's the thing. It's not the only good book that's out this week from Mutants. Because they're all good.
They're all good. Let's move on to the next one. New Mutants number 12.
First of all, I just love the cover.
Yes.
That's just... By the way, did you see one of the microphones? So it's Magic. It's done like a tabloid cover.
Yeah.
And it's got Magic with her sword slicing off all the tops of all of these microphones that are being pointed at her from like a news media thing. One of them has the I can't remember what they call them, but the logo box that's on the mics, right?
Yeah.
Is 616.
Yep, nice.
I was like, there you go. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So, was it last week when last week when we were talking about iBoy, and I listed off the characters who I would put in an X-Men movie. One of them was Glob Herman.
Oh yeah.
Who gets some time front and center in this issue.
He does.
So first off, like, this is digging into the sort of background plot line from this series about the group doxing mutants.
Yeah, specifically a website called Docs.
Yeah, which I love because we had House of X, which was abbreviated Hawks, and Powers of 10, which is abbreviated Pox. And I love that they've just kind of nod and wink made Docs.
Yes.
It's very Dr. Seuss, but I'm here for it. Basically, Magic and a small team is just taking the fight to them. We see Trinary, who you read X-Men Red, right? The Tom Taylor? Yeah.
Yep.
Glad to see Trinary back and still
Me
up
too.
to it. And you get the kind of expected beat of Magic just coming in and being terrifying.
Yeah.
And she goes to like almost punch the editor or ringleader out. And then you see Glob Herman's hand try to like, you think it's going to be stopping her. Yeah. And then he steps in and he lets this man have it. And these kind of groups, these clearly hate-based organizations that are so good at covering their tracks and maintaining plausible deniability and being intentionally shitty without repercussion.
They're hate enablers is what they are, right?
But that even implies that they don't know what they're doing. They mean it.
No, that's just it. They are 100%, but they use the fact that they're not committing things themselves to claim that they're not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
bullshit.
I could go further down this road than I want.
Oh, yeah.
The last 4 years have made these voices, which were already there, even more prominent and even more toxic, and have signaled to them that this shit is okay. And it is the thing that gets under my skin the fastest. And I have such a complex reaction to Glob Herman basically just letting them have it. Like, I'm kind of here for it, but I am also such a pacifist at the same time that, like, I don't know that I'd do anything different in his shoes, but man, I hate that part of me. And then he has this monologue about...
I was going to say, which is exactly what he goes through, right?
Like...
Yeah. Like, he literally goes through that exact conversation where this is everything I don't want to be.
Yeah.
But, and then Magic has... Like, Magic is, what's amazing is she's, like, the most composed in this.
Yeah.
Right? And she's like, yes, I understand, but having anger and releasing anger when it's justified and not letting it be what controls you is not a bad thing.
Yeah. Which, boy howdy, is literally the thing I personally have the hardest time with.
Right. Yeah.
This scene also, like, that whole half of this book also reminds me so much of that scene in the West Wing pilot where CJ and Toby drag Josh into the meeting with Mary Marsh and the others. And everyone loses their cool except Josh.
Yes, right?
And like
that's the whole
Magic.
time they're warning Josh not to lose his cool. Don't lose your right.
Yeah.
Don't rise to the bait. Yes.
Can at least get the names of the damn commandments straight.
It's beautiful. Yeah, and then how it turns out, because you're led to very much, you're kind of led along the leash of Magic is going to go in here and just fuck shit up, right?
Well, that's what the series has built toward, right? We had the issue with Scott giving her the ultimatum, don't you fuck up again.
Right. And so, but no, what she has led them in here to do is for Trinary to take their systems and essentially every single time that they dox and release names and addresses and whereabouts of mutants, it's going to release his name and address and whereabouts of the creator as well.
Yeah, you dox us, you dox yourself.
Yeah, tit for tat. It's only fair. We're not doing anything you're not doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Like, how beautiful is that?
I love it.
Yeah.
Wolverine number 5. Nothing in this book will make me happier than hearing Wolverine referred to as a juice box.
Yeah, an iced juice box.
Yeah,
at that. Yes. Yeah. So this is where we're following the vampire storyline. Is in this book.
Yeah. Also, it doesn't address this, but do you think that after the vampires took his blood, that they were a little drunk? Because as much whiskey as must have been in his system at that point, although he does heal pretty quickly, he could have already
processed it.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. So essentially what we find out is what happened in the catacombs in Paris when they took his blood and let him go, and then what happens here when they freeze him and again take his blood, is they're creating what they call blood clocks. Essentially, they're taking Wolverine's blood and over time, over a 1 day period, transfusing it into themselves so that they can become daywalkers.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Wolverine teams up with some Canadian punk vampires on snowmobiles to take the fight to the vampires as they invade Minneapolis. Those words together are, I think, poetry.
Yeah, there's something right about that in there.
I love that as kind of dark and brutal as this book gets, it keeps that sense of humor. Like that sort of just existential absurdity of everything that's going on.
Yeah. Well, and the last key thing I think in here is, so they go, and these two kind of vampire lieutenants who are doing that. Essentially what they're doing is they're taking all these super small towns in northern Canada, which are kind of economically failing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And they're turning everybody in it into new vampires.
It's really a metaphor for alt-right conservatism in American small towns.
And then they're taking these new vampires and trucking them into large cities and releasing them.
See previous comment?
Yeah. And that's how they're like fostering this. But so
you really
they go after these.
You really can tell which issues of X-Men were written before the hiatus and which were written after the hiatus, right?
Yeah. Yes. But specifically the important thing here is Wolverine asks one of the lieutenant, like, why did you let me go? And they're like, because if we had actually taken you, it would have prompted a response from the mutants, and we're not ready for that yet. And he's like, well, too late now. And that's kind of where it ends. Yeah. Yeah. So
all these books are so good.
So one of the things I'm curious about, because and it's kind of amazing to me that we're this close to it, and I don't know, is I have not gleaned exactly what's going to happen in Ten of Swords, and I'm super pleased by that. Part of it's because I've been kind of trying to stay away from it.
Yeah.
Right. But like, are the vampires part of that storyline, or is that something that's going to happen after? I'm thinking it's after.
I think that's a separate thing. So
yeah.
Here's the funny part. I haven't really avoided it, and I also have not exactly gleaned.
Okay. And that's I think that's been purposeful from them.
Have you gone back and picked up that free comic book day issue of X-Men that is sort of a teaser for Ten of Swords?
I have it. I have not read it yet.
Okay. So like, even having read that, and even having read, like, I think Newsarama had an article last week, maybe a week before now, with one of the artists working on it, about developing sort of a visual language and style for the tie-ins. Like, even reading that, I don't have a lot of answer for what exactly this is. I know one thing that maybe you have not had a chance to pick up yet that I think does come from that free comic book day issue.
Okay.
But from what picture I do have, I think what we're going to see is kind of the way this line has worked in general, right? Where these plot threads that are introduced in one maybe get picked up or referenced in another and just sort of float. I think we're going to see lots of little things that have been, this issue is focused on that, this issue is focused on that, sort of coalesce, right? Like these little beats, these forgotten moments, these things that have happened all sort of add up together. But there are also, like, there's character art out there for a few of the antagonist characters,
right?
And like, I know where they come from, but there's also like one of them who they haven't released a name for, and like intentionally are withholding the name of.
Yeah.
And like, there's one theory out there that, this is maybe an X-Men character who's been turned into something else.
Yeah, kind of Archangel-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll find out in like 2 weeks, though.
Yeah.
We're so close.
I'm so ready for this guy. And here's the thing, and this goes back to, the Cable and Wolverine and all the, and we've talked about how good literally all of these books are.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine if you said, where could they do a crossover event that would be the most, the thing you would want the most, it would have to be in Mutants right now.
Yeah.
It'd have to be in the X books, because they're just so well written all together that, oh my God.
Well, and it's funny to me because, like, I think I've said this before, How excited I am for this almost snuck up on me the first time I saw that Prelude trade dress on single issues.
Right?
It's like, oh, this is a real thing that's coming now, and I am super stoked for it.
Yeah.
But we'll talk more about that in a minute. First, is it still good? King of Nowhere number 5 wraps up as the citizens of Nowhere learn what their place in the world is and where they can go next. The Dreaming Waking Hours number 2, while Ruin and Jophiel seek out help for Ruin's mistakes. Oh shoot, is her name Mindy? The main character has to solve the problem of having too many Shakespeares. Hellblazer Rise and Fall number 1. This is, I think, a very well-made, very John Constantine Hellblazer story. If that is what you are looking for, I think this is absolutely for you. Injustice Year Zero number 5, Brian.
The Joker finally gets his hands on the item that's going to give him the power to change everything.
Justice League number 52, Brian.
We get, I mentioned this earlier in the show, we get Batman's story of what Black Mercy would show him to give him a life that would make him happy. And we get a revelation at the end when Bruce asks Superman, what did it show you? And his response is, believe it or not, my life right now.
Strange Adventures number 5, Brian.
Wow, Alana's a bitch. And I mean that in every, holy, wow. And the art makes me happy. I'm sorry. I love it.
Young Justice number 18. Drake, and spoiler, have a family reunion with Spoiler's father.
And invite all their friends.
Yes. Bitterroot number 10. We may have dealt with Adro, but there will still be consequences in the future. There's a time jump a couple of years forward at the end of this, and I need to know what comes next, and this is going on hiatus to write the next arc. Like one of the, like Image does, the couple month hiatuses.
Right.
Coffin Bound number 6. Maybe a psychic assassin is not how you kill someone who regularly injects God the drug. Maybe that's just a recipe for your psychic assassin to get very, very high. Sex Criminals Sexual Gary special number 1. This is Gary's life story. It is like a sad and horny Lifetime original movie about a man named Sexual Gary.
All right.
Like, that's the best way I can sum it up. Hawkeye Freefall number 6. This is one of the last couple of... We released it digitally first, and now it's in print issues from Marvel.
Yeah.
This wraps everything up. If you've been reading it, you're gonna pick up this issue, and if you haven't been, what's wrong with you? Horizon Zero Dawn number 2. We learn a little bit more about the new machines, the sort of black armored machines that Talana is hunting, and how she and Aloy have figured out how to deal with them. And then things take a turn for the not great for Talana. Also, just real quick, the only reason we didn't talk about Miles Morales Spider-Man number 18 this week is because my comic shop got shorted. I am still very excited for this book, and hopefully when it comes in, I will remember to put it back in the list.
And I think I missed putting it on the list, but Terrifics number 30, which is the last issue of Terrifics, was out this week, and we get a wrap up and conclusion of their storyline.
Cool.
Which I've really liked. I've really liked some of the characters in this.
Hopefully they turn up in new places soon.
Yeah.
But now, we turn our attention toward November. Back on the Solicitations game. Brian.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about Miskatonic number 1.
So Miskatonic, this is an Aftershock book. It's coming out. It's going to be by Mark Sable as the writer, and Giorgio Pontrelli is the artist. This is about, and this is going to be one of two books that's similar. This is an FBI agent named, where's she at? Miranda Keller, who is sent to stop some bombings in this place called Miskatonic Valley. And it turns out that there's some very odd, weird things going on in this location. Like, think cults and supernatural weirdness, and
yeah. This was compared when it was announced, and I'm imagining, mostly just because of the specific moment it was announced, this was compared to Lovecraft Country, which I think had debuted like the night or a night or two before this announcement.
Okay. Yep.
I mention that mostly so I can say on the podcast, oh my god, Lovecraft Country is amazing. You should be watching it. As someone who read the book back when it was announced Jordan Peele was working on a TV show,
yeah,
I am still constantly surprised by this show and absolutely adore it.
Yeah.
Johnny Smollett's the best.
This takes place in the 1920s, and there's like a Cthulhu-esque like image as part of the title. So there's definitely that vibe going on here.
Well, Miskatonic is a pretty heavy signal that this is going to have some.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It does what's advertised on the tin. Red Atlantis #1.
All right, so this is another Aftershock book. This one's by Stephanie Phillips, and the art is Robert Carey. And this is similar in the fact that it is an FBI person who is going to figure out what's happened after some violent crimes that happen on an election day. And there's a Texas journalism student named Miriam who is trying to basically start investigating and figuring out what's going on.
I saw the solicitation, and I thought, oh, that sounds great. But November Alex is not going to be ready to read this book.
With the whole election day thing, yeah.
No matter
we'll see.
No matter how that shakes out, November Alex is not going to be ready to read this book.
And so the last line is a fast-paced political thriller that explores a dark history of U.S.-Russian relations. Hence the red part of Red Atlantis.
Origins #1. Moving on to Boom.
Yeah, so Origins is it's going to be a 6-issue limited series from Boom, and it is written by Clay McLeod Chapman, illustrated by Jacob Rebelka. And they've got some sample pages and previews of some of the interior art, and this just looks super, super beautiful. It's billed for fans of Little Bird and Descender.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it's a kind of post-apocalyptic type where, nature has taken back cities and that kind of thing. And essentially, humans have been killed off by artificial intelligence. But one human, David Adams, is brought back to life, and he is the person who created the AI that destroyed everything. So now with the help of an android, Chloe, who revived him, he's going to have to try and stop the AI overlords.
Cool.
Yeah, and save the world.
Moving over to DC, the other history of the DC universe. We might have mentioned this one before. This is resolicited, but I don't know if we talked about it the first time it was solicited because it was right around the hiatus. This is written by John Ridley, with art by Giuseppe Camuncoli and Andrea Cucci. And this is something a little different. It is a Black Mask book, but it is mostly prose with illustrations.
Right.
And it is taking a look...
By the way, Black Label, not Black Mask.
Damn it, I do it every time. Every time. Thank you.
Point of order there, yeah.
No, I appreciate it, because there is a publisher called Black Mask.
Right, that was, It's like, which would be really odd for them to put out the other history of the DC Universe.
This is taking a look at the mythology of the DC Universe, and how how that deals with socio-political issues, looking at marginalized, disenfranchised groups. So each issue of this is basically going to be a deep dive into a different character. There's a lot of research built into it. The first issue looks at Black Lightning, at Jefferson Pierce, before he becomes Black Lightning. And subsequent issues will follow Karen and Mal Duncan, Tatsu Yamashiro, who is Katana, and Renee Montoya. It'll come out bi-monthly, so November, January, March, etc. But yeah, it's something different. I think it's something that probably will be a very interesting, informative read.
Yes.
Which, when it comes out, I will feel like the last person who should probably comment on what it's about.
Yeah, and we're gonna have another one of these from Marvel that's that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the best thing for us to do is like try to make people aware now and say, hey, this is gonna be probably a really cool thing. Check it out. So
yeah, and then we can talk about how pretty the art is. We can do that.
And now for something completely different. Punchline special number 1.
So yeah, this is this is a single issue one shot from Tynan and Sam Johns
with art by Mirka Andolfo.
Yes, that is essentially the deep dive story of how Alexis K becomes Punchline.
Yes.
So yeah, we got a bit of her origin kind of in the Joker 80th anniversary. One of those stories.
Well, and in this week's Batman, there's kind of an allusion to like she spent a year looking for him, and then what we saw in that 80th anniversary issue happened. So I'm guessing this fills in that year.
Yeah, I'm guessing this is going to be that whole deep dive into all the pieces we're missing so far, I think. Yeah. Yep.
Next up from DC, Sweet Tooth, The Return number 1. Have you read any Sweet Tooth, Brian?
I have not.
I have the whole original series in hardcover. It is a goddamn delight. I imagine part of the reason it is being revisited is because Netflix, I think it was Netflix, it might have been Hulu. Netflix had ordered a pilot for a series from Robert Downey Jr.'s production company, and yes, Siri, I know, you think I said your name. This past week, it was announced that it was picked up for a full series order. So, we're getting a TV show, and we're getting some more comic. The original book, if you're not familiar with it, is about this boy named Gus who lives in this sort of post... wow, of all the words to forget right now.
Apocalypse?
No. What's the word for when a virus spreads? Pandemic. Thank you. Lives in this post-pandemic world. Wow, Alex. I'm leaving all that in.
Yeah, like that's the word you forget right now? Come on.
Where the children affected by this virus have taken on animal-like qualities. He has, like, deer features, antlers. And they're kind of shunned by society. They're seen as carrying this plague. And it at least starts out as the story of like him and this sort of gruff traveler character who sort of becomes father-like, protective of, a guardian of him. Fucks up some along the way. More will be good. It's Jeff Lemire. Art is by Jeff Lemire. Yeah. Over at Image, how about Crossover? Some new Donny Cates, Jeff Shaw.
Yeah, so I am super excited to have another Donny Cates independent book. And this is essentially the way it's presented as is if everything that you thought was fantasy turned out to be real, like how fucking terrifying and scary is that?
Yeah.
Because first thought for most people like you and I think, is, wow, that would be so amazing.
No, I've seen the end of Game of Thrones.
Well, not just that, but like also like, yeah, no, wait. Think about what happens to everyday people in Superman and Batman comics.
They get Jokerized and die?
Yeah, like, oh shit, this is fucking awful. No, I don't want to live in this world.
Yeah.
I mean, there's times I wonder how much better the real world is, but but no.
It really is a toss-up right now.
But so yeah, and so that's kind of what's. I love the cover of the prime cover of this.
Yeah.
Which is this person opening the cover to crossover, and like just all of this rainbow crazy shit is coming out and blasting him in the face.
Like Kirby Crackle. He's getting Kirby crackled.
Yes, he is. Oh, this is gonna be so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some big Grant Morrison energy to this, and I am here for it.
Yep. I can't wait.
All right. Marvel time. Wolverine, Black, White, and Blood, number 1 and 2.
So this is going to be by this is actually by a combination of folks. It's Jerry Duggan. Hey, we've heard that name before. Declan Shalvey and Matthew Rosenberg. Like all people that I am 100% behind.
Yeah.
Art is Adam Kubert, Declan Shalvey, and Joshua Cassara. And this is kind of I get the feeling this is going to be like 3 kind of tales ongoing.
Yeah.
It's the reason we have 3 authors and 3 artists.
So
right?
this is an anthology book, very much like Batman Black and White or Harley Quinn Black and White and Red.
Mm-hmm.
Each issue, I don't think this will be digital first. But each issue is 3 stories, 3 creative teams. I know that Saladin Ahmed has said that he's got a story coming up in one of these issues.
Okay.
So I don't even think it's going to do what a lot of these do, where like one of these stories repeats through all of them. I think it's straight up anthology.
Right. And the first one is essentially Logan, Patch, Weapon X, and Wolverine, right? And they're each going to kind of take a different kind of time period from his life and what's going on with him. Yeah, it's gonna be super good. You probably can get it from the title that this is gonna be a black and white book with red accents.
Yeah.
In it. Yeah.
So
I want it.
Brian, tell me if this sounds like it might be up your alley. Pretending for a moment that it wasn't on the list you sent me, as well as being on mine. Tagline: Never die, never win. Written by Kieran Gillen. Eternals number 1.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I don't know a ton about the Eternals. Like they are not in my wheelhouse of things that I know much about.
So, one really good reference point for Eternals stuff, without obviously read Eternals comics.
Sure.
But that Mark Waid History of the Marvel Universe that came out, was that earlier this year or last year? Who knows? What is time? Recently? That actually does a really good job of explaining the Eternals and their role in sort of the cosmology of Marvel.
Okay. That being said, like it's Kieran Gillen writing a big Marvel like cosmology type. Like, how am I not gonna read this?
I mean, the first line of the solicitation is, "What's the point of an eternal battle?"
Yeah, yeah. I just love it.
Making it even sweeter, Assad Ribic is on art.
Yeah. So there's in the Marvel previews issue, there's some internal panels which are gorgeous, and then they have I don't know, they're doing like
11 billion.
30 variant covers, some god awful number, right?
11 billion. That's the official
11
count.
billion. You know what? I believe it. But they have a smattering of them, and I'm telling you what, like they're all gorgeous. I'm like, well, shit. I'm not gonna be able to. How the hell am I gonna choose amongst these? Right?
Battle to the death.
Oh my god! It's just yeah. I mean, there's a Scotty Young, so that's probably high on the list.
Yeah. I
do love my Scotty Young covers.
I definitely, as I looked through, picked like the one that will be if I only get one, but I will probably get.
Do you know which that one
3.
is? Yeah, I can tell you the other ones that are high on my list are the Boss Logic cover, which just looked beautiful, and I mean, In-Hyuk Lee's doing a cover, which I love their stuff, so I don't know how I'm not gonna at least take a look at that one. And then Jenny Frishen's doing a cover, like.
Yeah, well, and that's
Yeah,
part of the problem. Is like the list I'm looking at has 8. The one that stood out to me is kind of I guess it's probably a character variant. I cannot tell you just from looking at the image because I don't see a signature who the artist is, but it's the character Icarus in Wow Brain, the Da Vinci sketch of the man with
Vitruvian Man.
Thank you.
Yes, it's super log.
Or I mean, here's part of the problem. Like you mentioned, Jenny Frison. There's a variant cover by Jen Bartel that I haven't seen yet anywhere.
Russell Dauterman's doing one.
Yeah.
Right?
I'd be curious about the Walt Simonson one.
Yep. Like all of these are potentials because so many beautiful artists, and like all of them that I have seen so far, and I've seen like 5 or 6 of them, all look gorgeous.
I feel like the last Marvel book I saw this many variants on, and there may be others since.
Yeah.
But like was Star Wars #1 when they got the Star Wars license back. Like I feel like this book is going to end up being a big deal for them, like in terms of continuity at least. Because there's also a movie coming up.
Yeah, I am literally counting 38 that are listed here.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
But that also doesn't count, like, some retailers are going to commission their own variants.
Yeah.
And
absolutely. Absolutely.
U.S. Agent #1 of 5. So this made my list 100% because Christopher Priest is writing.
Yeah, I probably should have added it because I'm gonna get this just because, like you, Christopher Priest.
Yeah, and U.S. Agent is. There are very few characters who, like, I see them, I'm like, I don't want this clown.
Yeah.
Most characters I either like or fall into the sort of gray space of. It depends on who's writing, or who's drawing, or who's working on this book, how they're used. U.S. Agent just like. I think is useful for social commentary, but is a social commentary that like I personally like. I get it. I'm good. I'm there. I'm not the audience at this point.
Right.
But I feel like having Christopher Priest write that puts it back into a place where I'm interested in that commentary. And this is basically about what happens if U.S. Agent is stripped of his status as a government agent and now has to work as an independent contractor. And I think there's something interesting in putting him in that place where, like, I mean, basically what happens to someone who kind of needs the regulation if he's living in this even grayer, deregulated space. And what happens when, like, the system doesn't back him entirely.
Right.
I think there's something there that's really interesting, given just kind of how this character is sort of the shitty one who usually does the right thing at the end of the day, but who is going to be an asshole the whole time and kind of only cares about himself most of the time.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
By the way, this is a 5-issue limited series, so you're not committing to...
Yes.
Yeah.
Next up, Marvel Voices, Indigenous Voices #1, and a reprint of the first Marvel Voices.
Yeah, so if you're not aware, and this is the other one, kind of like the other history of DC, where these are stories that are by some marginalized or minority influence groups.
So the first Marvel Voices looked at black creators and black characters. This one is looking at indigenous creators and characters.
Yeah, and specifically by creators that are, like, in those, fall into those groups. And it just sounds fascinating to me. And this is another one that I don't know how well will be, how much we can comment on them other than to say that you should check them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I picked up the first Marvel Voices and I thought it was really solid. And I know that I'm less familiar with some of the creators on this one because I think indigenous creators have even less representation in the comics industry right now.
I would agree.
I think I saw Darcy Little Badger listed on the list, who worked with Magdalene Visaggio on one of the Humanoids H1 books. There are some great covers for this too, though. I'm very excited for
I was going to say, and I will also point out that Marvel, as part of this month, on quite a few books, is doing a Native American heritage variant covers for a bunch of books, and they all look pretty cool as well.
All right, Power Pack number 1 of 5. Brian's called shot from last month's Solicitations.
I mean, it's going to be a Power Pack miniseries. I want it.
Yep.
Well, of course I do. And this is, I'm assuming they're not labeling it as such in this now, but I'm assuming this is still part of the Outlaw.
Yeah, I think it's got
kind of storyline. Yeah. So, what happens when they're, basically it's against the law for them to use their powers, but shit's going on. How do they not use them? Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. We're going to rapid fire some more of these. These are all going to be things that we don't need to explain.
No.
A pair of Tales from the Multiverse books at DC, Batman Flashpoint and Batman Hush.
Yeah. The multiverse stuff are cool, fun one-shots about kind of some AU dark tellings, and these are going to be 2 more of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
We also have another pair of Dark Knight's death metal tie-ins. The Universe Who Laughs and Infinite Hours Extreme. That's Extreme with 3 X's. The 3 X's stand for Lobo.
The 3 X's stand for Lobo.
Who
is on the he's on the cover, so I'm assuming he's
I was going to say who I'm assuming is played in this by the guy who played Triple X in those movies.
Oh, Vin Diesel. There you go.
Was that Vin Diesel?
Yeah, Triple X? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm assuming Lobo is played by Vin Diesel.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, more fun. Dark Knights, death metal stuff. Come on.
Yep. Also at DC, Brian, you are shouting out 4 series that are definitely ending, and one that is at least seeing a creative team change.
Yeah, and I just wanted to point out because just kind of giving them a nod that because these are last issues, right? And also, if you happen to be a collector type person, for some reason, last issues tend to be more valuable.
It's because they end up getting fewer copies printed because so many people have dropped off.
Could be.
Those issues are Aquaman number 65, which we know Kelly Sue DeConnick is leaving. We don't know if this is the last issue of the series.
Correct.
Hawkman number 29, Suicide Squad number 11, Teen Titans number 47. Man, you hate to see them get so close to 50 and not.
I know, right?
And Young Justice number 20.
Yeah.
And I get the feeling that for some of these, and I know this is true of Hellblazer, the
Yep.
Sandman universe.
I did mention Hellblazer. Yeah,
it and Suicide Squad both kind of, these were the planned ends of these books. They could have been picked up for more. At least I know Hellblazer could have.
Right.
Tom Taylor and the editor on Suicide Squad have both said they're making plans for these characters in other books. Kelly Sue DeConnick has said that she actually has stayed on Aquaman longer than she ever planned. So this is not exactly a surprising departure there. And I think some of these books ending probably come out of just we have Dark Knight's death metal wrapping up soon. Yeah. That originally along with Generations, but now just kind of on its own, is sort of the thing that's supposed to reset the universe some and kind of give us something that's maybe a little more congealed than just Rebirth and New 52 alone. Like, bring back in some. We've seen a lot of like JSA era characters popping back up, Flash family members popping back up. So my guess is some of this is just a very light relaunch that maybe because of delays and hiatus haven't been announced as such.
Yep, and I'm part of it's them just making room for some new books.
Like, it's hard to believe there won't be a Teen Titans book. It's hard to believe that Bendis doesn't have more plans for Young Justice. Like, I think we'll see more of each of those.
I do as well. I'm you know, it would be fascinating to me, and who knows, right? And it makes me wonder if this is kind of where he was thinking about going with Wonder Comics, right? Which was kind of like the subline.
Yeah,
for
it was his
Young Justice, right? It makes me wonder if they were thinking of doing something kind of like the mutant books at Marvel right now.
Yeah,
where these are all more kind of tied together, and it's kind of all of the young heroes of the DC universe.
Yeah, I think there are probably going to be some plot points coming up in future books that will make this sort of pause and reset make more sense.
Exactly. I agree.
Yeah.
So,
over at IDW, we mentioned the 0 issue for this last month, Lock and Key Sandman, Hell and Gone #1.
Yeah,
is out November.
Just kind of pointing it out again, just because, and essentially to remind people that there is a number 0 that is the month before.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
We see the return of 7 to Eternity for its final arc with number 14.
Yeah, it's been gone for a while, so don't miss that this is coming back.
Yep. It's a fantastic book.
Oh my god, so good.
And then we remain excited for Ten of Swords. Ten of Swords Destruction is out in
it continues, and I think wraps up in
November. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, that is it for Solicitations. Next week, this week, that's right, we fixed that. This week's books. This week's books to read. It's this week's books to read.
Woohoo!
Ice Cream Man presents Quarantine Comics Special #1.
Yeah.
If you're not aware, the team behind Ice Cream Man has put out sort of weekly, I believe, mini comics over at least part of the shipping hiatus. This collects them in a big one-shot. Each one has different creative teams. And then we mentioned a minute ago, Empyre, Fallout, Fantastic Four, and Aftermath Avengers are both going to be out next week.
Yeah.
And then Brian, Dark Knight's Death Metal, Trinity Crisis #1.
Yeah, so we get our kind of one-shots that are tying in with all the Dark Knight stuff, and this is Trinity is obviously, you know, it's Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and what that relationship in the Dark Knight's universe looks like.
Yep. I think
Death Metal universe.
I think this is looking at it through the lens of 3 specific Crisis storylines, one for each of them.
Yeah.
Yep. And that is it for, I mean, there's a lot coming out next week, but kind of #1 style thing.
Right. Yeah.
A quick mention, I am going to plug something.
Okay.
I did for Dragon Con, as part of Dragon Con Goes Virtual, a panel for the Comics and Pop Art track that you can find on their Facebook page. Just search Dragon Con Comics and Pop Art and it will come up. I interviewed Stefan Frank, who was one of the animators, I think the supervising animator on Iron Giant, worked on a couple of the first movies I actually remember seeing as a kid, about independent comics publishing and his newest series, Palomino. It was a one-on-one thing. I was really happy with how it turned out. I think we both were. So if you want to check that out, that's there. It's on Facebook. I think there's no cost to access it. And there's a bunch of virtual Dragon Con programming that is comics related on their Facebook page.
All right.
Yeah. Now for the usual stuff. We'd like to thank Chase Parker for our intro voiceover. Our website is panelologypodcast.com. We're on Patreon at patreon.com/panelology. Our merch is at bit.ly/panelologymerch, capital B, capital M. And our mailbag is at bit.ly/panelologymailbag. Also, capital P, capital M. I'm Alex.
And I am Brian. Go read comics.